There is a number ingrained in the American psyche, a cultural milestone that we are all taught to chase from the moment we understand what money is. It is the six-figure salary, $100,000 a year. Growing up, this wasn't just a number. It was an arrival. It was the finish line of financial anxiety. If you made six figures, the narrative went, you had a house with a two-car garage, you took your family on decent vacations without putting the flights on a credit card, you bought the good groceries without looking at the price tags, and you slept soundly knowing your retirement account was quietly compounding in the background. Hitting $100,000 meant you had officially won the game. But lately, a creeping, unsettling reality has been settling into the minds of millions of people who finally crossed that magical threshold. They look at their bank accounts, they look at their mounting bills, they feel the low-level hum of panic in their chests, and they ask themselves a very quiet, very terrifying question. If I am making so much money, why do I feel so damn broke? You are not crazy, you are not uniquely bad with money, and you are not alone in this feeling. The truth is that the goalpost hasn't just been moved. It has been strapped to a rocket and fired into a different stratosphere. Making $100,000 today is officially the equivalent of making roughly $62,000 just over a decade ago. It is a mathematical reality, a brutal combination of sticky inflation, skyrocketing borrowing costs, and the hidden taxes of modern life that are quietly running your paycheck through a meat grinder before you even have a chance to spend it. We need to talk about exactly how this is happening, the psychological traps keeping you stuck in the cycle, and what it actually takes to survive this bizarre economic era. Let us step out of the abstract theory and look at the brutal math of what a six-figure salary actually looks like in the real world today. I want to introduce you to Marcus. Marcus is 32 years old, he works in tech sales or middle management, and he just got the promotion he has been working toward for 7 years. His base salary is exactly $100,000. When Human Resources handed him that offer letter, Marcus felt a wave of euphoria. He thought his financial struggles were over. But then the first Friday of the month arrives, and Marcus logs into his banking app to see his direct deposit. His heart drops just a little bit. Because Marcus doesn't get $100,000, he doesn't even get $8,333, which is his gross monthly income. Before a single penny hits his account, the system takes its cut. First goes federal income tax, then state tax. Let's say he lives in a completely average middle-of-the-road state like Colorado or Illinois. Then comes FICA, the inescapable duo of Social Security and Medicare. Right off the top, roughly 24 to 28% of his money evaporates. We are down to about $6,100. But wait, Marcus needs health insurance. A standard employer-sponsored premium for a single guy is going to siphon off another $150 to $200. And because Marcus is a responsible adult who listens to financial advice, he contributes just 6% to his 401k to get his company match. That is another $500 gone. By the time the dust settles and the electronic transfer clears, the guy making six figures is looking at a take-home pay of exactly $5,400 a month. Now, $5,400 sounds like a solid amount of money until Marcus actually tries to live in the modern world. Let us look at housing, the great wealth destroyer of our generation. Marcus doesn't want a mansion. He just wants a decent one-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood, within a reasonable commute to his office, or maybe a very modest starter home. If he buys a house today, he is staring down the barrel of a 7% mortgage rate on a house that costs 40% more than it did 4 years ago. The average payment on a newly purchased starter home in America is now pushing $2,800. If he rents to avoid that trap, a decent apartment in a mid-tier metropolitan area is going to cost him at least $1,900 by the time you add in the mandatory trash, valet fees, parking, and pet rent. Let's be conservative and say Marcus rents a place for $2,000 flat. He is now down to $3,400. Next comes transportation. This is where the American dream really starts to bleed people dry. Our infrastructure mandates that almost everyone needs a car to survive. Marcus drives a mid-size SUV or a modest pickup truck. He bought it slightly used, but because of supply chain shocks and high interest rates, cars are no longer depreciating assets that you buy for a few grand. They are rolling financial anchors. The average monthly payment for a new car right now is crossing $730, and for used cars it is hovering around $530. Let's give Marcus the used car average, but a car doesn't run on good intentions. Insurance premiums have skyrocketed by over 20% in the last 2 years because the computers inside modern bumpers cost a fortune to replace. That is another $150. Then there is the invisible tax of the global economy, oil prices. High crude oil prices don't just mean it costs $80 to fill up the tank, though it certainly does do that. Let's say Marcus spends $150 a month on gas and another $50 setting aside for maintenance. His totally average non-luxury vehicle is costing him roughly $880 every single month. Our six-figure earner is now down to $2,520. We haven't even fed him yet. We are living in an era of what economists casually call sticky inflation. It is a cute term for a terrifying reality. When inflation officially drops from 9% to 3%, prices do not go down. They simply go up slightly less fast than they were going up before. The damage is permanently baked into the system. High oil prices trickle into the cost of diesel, which trickles into the cost of the 18-wheeler delivering produce to the local supermarket, which trickles into the price of a bell pepper. Food prices are up nearly 30% cumulatively since the decade began. Marcus goes to the grocery store, buys generic chicken breasts, some vegetables, a carton of eggs, and a few household essentials. He walks out with 2 paper bags and a receipt for $140. He is spending $600 a month just to keep calories in his body, and that involves 0 restaurant meals, 0 Friday night beers with his coworkers, and 0 takeout when he is too tired to cook. Subtract the groceries, subtract $200 for utilities, internet, and his cell phone bill. Marcus, the triumphant six-figure earner, is left with $1,720. Out of this $1,720, Marcus has to pay his student loans, which probably run him another $300 or $400. He needs to buy clothes. He needs to buy a friend a wedding gift. He needs to go to the dentist. He needs to save for an emergency fund so that a blown tire doesn't ruin his life. If he wants to take his girlfriend out to a mid-tier restaurant for an anniversary, he is dropping $150 on 2 steaks and 2 cocktails. By the end of the month, despite making a salary that puts him in the top tier of historical global earners, Marcus has $0 left. Sometimes he has negative $200, which quietly rolls onto his credit card at a suffocating 24% interest rate. This is not the math of a careless spender. This is the math of someone playing by the rules in a game where the board has been tilted entirely against him. The purchasing power of his money has been hollowed out from the inside. $100,000 is mathematically the new $62,000, and the cognitive dissonance of earning a doctor's salary from $1,900. And 98 but living a college student's lifestyle from 2010 is causing a massive psychological crisis. But we cannot just blame the macroeconomic climate, the Federal Reserve, or the oil cartels, because there is a second layer to this meat grinder, and it is entirely psychological. Let us talk about the behavioral traps that keep smart, high-earning people perpetually broke. We are living in the most hyper-optimized consumer environment in human history. Every app on your phone, every billboard, every social media feed is a multi-billion-dollar psychological weapon designed to separate you from your money with the least amount of friction possible. Let me introduce you to Sarah and David, a married couple pulling in a combined $180,000. They are the textbook definition of upper middle class, yet they are drowning. Why? Because of a phenomenon called lifestyle creep, combined with the lethal convenience of the modern economy. When Sarah and David started making real money, they felt a psychological entitlement to comfort. It is the insidious inner monologue that says, I work 50 hours a week in a high-stress corporate job, I shouldn't have to clean my own house, I'll hire a service. I had a brutal Tuesday. I deserve to press 3 buttons on DoorDash and have a $28 burrito delivered directly to my couch. We make 6 figures, why shouldn't we finance the luxury SUV instead of the reliable sedan? This is the I deserve it tax. It is the frictionless bleeding of wealth. 10 years ago, if you wanted to buy something stupid, you had to get off the couch, get in your car, drive to a mall, look a cashier in the eye, and physically hand over paper money. Today, your face scans Apple Pay, chimes a delightful little sound, and $70 vanishes from your net worth in a millisecond. Furthermore, Sarah and David are victims of the subscription economy. Corporate America realized a long time ago that selling you a product once is a terrible business model. The goal is to turn your life into a monthly recurring revenue stream. It is not just Netflix and Spotify anymore. It is the heated seats in your car that require a software subscription. It is the premium fitness app, the cloud storage, the meal kit delivery, the razor blades, the vitamins. Sarah and David have $500 a month dripping out of their accounts in auto pays for services they barely remember signing up for and are too exhausted to cancel. And then there is the ultimate wealth destroyer for the modern working couple, the childcare trap. They have one toddler. Daycare in their city costs $2,400 a month. That is almost $30,000 a year in after-tax money. When you stack the daycare, the two-car payments, the inflated grocery bills, and the frictionless microtransactions of modern convenience, a combined income of $180,000 vanishes into thin air. They are generating massive amounts of cash flow, but they are retaining absolutely none of it. They are a high-speed conveyor belt moving money from their employers directly to massive corporations, with their personal bank accounts serving as nothing more than a temporary way station. This is the brutal reality of the system we live in. We are running on a treadmill that is steadily increasing its speed to 10 miles per hour, while our salaries are jogging at a comfortable 5 miles per hour. If you do what everyone else does, you will end up where everyone else is highly paid, highly stressed, and completely broke. You cannot out-earn systemic inflation just by getting standard 3% cost of living raises. You cannot outrun a housing market where Wall Street firms are buying up single-family starter homes for cash. If you blindly accept the default path of the American consumer, the math will crush you. So what is the way out? How do you escape this trap when the macroeconomic factors are completely out of your control? The answer is not the condescending, reductive advice you hear from traditional financial gurus. I am not going to sit here and tell you that you are poor because you buy a $5 iced coffee. That is a distraction. If you give up a daily $5 coffee, you save $150 a month. That doesn't even cover the recent increase in your car insurance premium. You cannot coupon clip your way out of a structural economic crisis. To survive this era, you have to stop playing defense on the pennies and start playing absolute ruthless offense on the massive structural expenses in your life. You have to step outside the matrix of societal expectations. The first step is radically redefining your relationship with housing and transportation, because these two line items are the absolute slaughterhouses of modern wealth. Let's look at transportation first. The normalization of financing depreciating assets is a cultural disease. If you are financing a $40,000 car over 84 months at 8% interest, you are setting your future on fire. The solution is brutal but simple. You have to swallow your pride and drive a boring, older, unglamorous car until you have enough cash to actually afford something better without a payment. A paid-off Honda Civic from 2012 is the ultimate status symbol of the secretly wealthy. It signals that you are immune to the marketing machine. By eliminating a $700 car payment and the corresponding luxury insurance rates, you instantly inject nearly $10,000 of post-tax liquidity back into your life every single year. That is a life-changing amount of capital. Housing is much harder because you cannot simply opt out of needing a roof over your head, but you can opt out of the societal pressure of the dream home. We have been conditioned to believe that renting is throwing money away and buying a house is the ultimate financial goal. In a normal interest rate environment, that made sense. In today's economy, renting and fiercely investing, the difference in the stock market is often mathematically superior to stretching yourself to the breaking point for a 7% mortgage on an overpriced house. If you do buy, you cannot use the bank's approval amount as your budget. The bank calculates what you can afford based on maximum survivable stress. They want to know the absolute limit of blood they can extract from a stone before the stone shatters. You have to buy significantly below your means or consider alternative models like house hacking, buying a duplex, living in one half, and letting a renter pay down your mortgage on the other. It sounds exhausting, and it is, but it is the kind of asymmetrical move required to break the math of the modern economy. Beyond the big expenses surviving, the new math of the six-figure salary requires a complete rewiring of your psychological operating system. You have to become a conscious allocator of capital rather than a passive consumer. This means embracing a concept of ruthless prioritization. You sit down, look at the cold, hard numbers of your life, and you decide what actually brings you joy. If you love traveling, spend money on travel, but in exchange you must aggressively, mercilessly cut expenses on the things you don't care about. You cannot have the nice car, the nice apartment, the daily takeout, and the European vacation. The math no longer allows for it. You have to choose your one or two luxuries and let the rest go to zero. You also have to automate your wealth building so that the money disappears before your human weaknesses can spend it. When the paycheck hits the investments and the savings must be extracted automatically, instantly on day one, you live on whatever is left. If what is left means you have to eat rice and beans for the last 3 days of the month, you eat rice and beans. You do not lower your savings rate to accommodate your lifestyle. You lower your lifestyle to accommodate your savings rate. This is the only way to build a wall between yourself and the sticky inflation destroying the dollar. You have to convert your depreciating fiat currency into appreciating assets, stocks, real estate, businesses, because those assets are the only things that inflate right alongside the cost of living. When oil prices go up, the cost of everything goes up, but the revenue of the companies you own through index funds goes up too. You transition from being the person crushed by inflation to the person whose portfolio benefits from it. Earning $100,000 a year is still an incredible achievement. It requires hard work, skill, and perseverance. But we have to collectively mourn the death of what that number used to mean and wake up to what it means right now. It is no longer the finish line. It is no longer a guarantee of a life free from financial worry. It is simply a very solid starting block in a race that has become significantly harder to run. The math is brutal, the system is unforgiving, and the psychological traps are set perfectly along the path. But once you understand the machinery of the meat grinder, you don't have to put your money into it. You can step off the conveyor belt. You can choose to look weird to your broke peers who are leasing BMWs to impress people they don't even like. You can quietly, methodically build real security behind the scenes. The six-figure salary might be the new 62,000, but with absolute mathematical clarity and ruthless discipline, it is still enough to build an unbreakable financial fortress. You just have to be willing to do the math that no one else wants to do.